I thank you very much for that report, Samuel Wamai. Of course, self-employment is the key to curbing the rate of unemployment in the country. Now, on the 8th of December 2017, Consumer Downtown Association held the first annual Telecommunication Service Providers Awards. The awards saw Airtel Kenya and Telecom Kenya being recognized for playing key roles in aiding communication. Just to get more insight on the awards and the world of telecommunication, Japheth Ogutu is the Executive Director of the association, joins us this afternoon. Of course, a very good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right. And just to get into it, maybe what we should start by highlighting what the event was all about, and maybe what has your company played, what role has your company played in regards to the awards?
Thank you, Zainab. Well, let me begin by saying that Consumer Downtown Association is one of the consumer protection organizations in Kenya that protects the interests of consumers in the country. And one, we are very keen to ensure that consumers get value for the services the service providers offer to them, and that they are hard-earned money. They're able to get value and true value, not just value, but true value for the services they are offered. Just a quick one. On the December 8th, we were able to come up together as stakeholders in the telecom industry, where we partnered with the Communications Authority, which is the regulator in the sector, to ensure we recognize those efforts that the service providers in the sector have played. Actually, those areas that they've done exemplary well to give consumers value. You'll remember that we've come a long way in the telecommunication sector. Right from those days when Kenyans were paying very heftily to make calls. There were those times when people were paying close to 15 shillings or 20 shillings per minute just to make a call. And then to the age today when we pay close to something slightly less than 4 shillings. That one we must really understand where we've come from. And that was one of the reasons why we were converging at LICO to recognize these efforts. Another area is on the internet. Initially, we had a very poor internet supply in the country, and even those people who could afford it, it was very expensive for them. Today, we have fairly many competitors. I may say they are close to 5 telecom service providers who are very active in the Kenya market today. And what they are doing is to help give consumers the value that they need. You'll find that initially they were giving those internet services at considerably high rates, but today the spread is so big to an extent that consumers have every reason to choose from which service provider actually they will want to subscribe to. If you look at the 4G penetration, we have close to 4 companies that are already on 4G platforms, but only one licensee is already registered. Actually, is licensed by the regulator to offer the 4G. That is Safaricom. The rest, Airtel, Telecom, and Jamii Telecom, who just launched theirs the other day. They are still on trial. Actually, we expect them to be licensed next year, so that they're able also to compete fairly. So these awards were recognizing those areas that they've done exemplary well to give consumers value. And now we invited all the telecom players, about 5 companies. We invited Safaricom, Telecom Kenya, Airtel Kenya, and there was also Equitel and Jamii Telecom. And then there were about 4 categories that we were recognizing. These 4 categories were those categories that are really up to date with consumers on daily basis. Those categories that consumers take very seriously. Like you'll find a number of consumers will make calls. So many people will make calls on daily basis. And at what rate are they able to make affordable calls? And then on the side of internet, we were also looking at the kind of internet speed that you give, and then not just the speed, but also the quality and also the pricing. At what price do you give consumer, that internet you're supplying? Now, take for instance at 100 shillings. What would Safaricom or company A, B, and C give 400 shillings, and then look at the spread in terms of other products that are more related to that they are also giving to consumers. Are there options that consumers can, those low-income consumers?
So those were the criteria that we're actually using to pick the candidates.
Yeah, so you look at, we were also looking at the spread in terms of the internet service providers, you know, the spread. Are you able to reach out even to low-income consumers, particularly those who cannot afford 100 shillings, but they can buy like, you know, they can use 20 shillings to buy some bundles. What is the spread and value, and even the speed, and even how the rate of consumption of that internet you're providing.
All right.
So that is in the internet bundles category.
Right.
So there were, I've talked about 4 categories. There was one, call rates.
Yes.
There was the second one on the internet bundles, and then there was the third one that was focusing on the service delivery, vis-a-vis the complaints, redress mechanisms, you know, available within your channels.
All right.
Yeah, and then the third category was on the best marketing strategy, the best marketing strategy. You know, company which gives you know, they use the best strategy focusing on consumer, you know, more consumer focused than profit-making focus.
Right.
Yeah. So out of the 4 categories, we were able to award 2 companies. Yeah. So one of the companies that went with 2 awards was Airtel Kenya. Airtel Kenya was awarded for local rates. Right. Actually, it is close to free. You know, when you are on Airtel to Airtel, calling an Airtel customer, you'll use almost zero airtime to call. They have a platform called Tubonge, where it gives consumer more value. At 10 shillings, consumer can make calls for free for 24 hours. And those are some of the things we were looking at.
Right, and just looking at that particular, you know, area, you've been able to award Airtel Kenya for that, and which is a very good value for the customers.
Yes.
But then again, we, as a stakeholder, we have Airtel Kenya, which we announced that they will be moving out of the country. Now, does this create an imbalance in the telecommunication sector?
Right, I'll be coming to that. Actually, we would advise them not to move. One thing that has really affected this sector that we must always point out is the unfair competition. We find that there is a lot of predominant, or you know, dominance by one big player, and again the aspect of intimidation, the aspects of you know, overtaxing the sector.
But there's a level playing field for all telecommunication companies, right?
Yeah, they seem to be level playing field, but it's not that level. Actually, what we are saying is that because take for instance the licensing, how much do they license these operators? You'll find that the fee for licensing is extremely high. All right. And it discourages the small players to penetrate the market. And take for instance, if they are charged close to over 300 million, cut across all, whether you are big or small, you pay that. And then look at the penalties also. They are charged for the small mistakes around. They are also very hefty. And these are some of the things that discourages the other small operators. Take for instance, the leading market player in the industry, Safaricom, for instance, commanding close to 29 million subscribers. And then followed by, at a distance, by Airtel. At close to 6 million. Look at that range, it's so big. It's huge. And you can't put those people in the same platform and charge them equally, and even treat them equally, and give them, you know, all the treatment equally. It is absolutely unfair. And to us, we think the government should come up with a mechanism, proper mechanism to encourage small investors to also penetrate the market, so that we're able to find a very fair competition in the market. All right.
Now, there has been a trend on telecommunications service use where there's been a surge of text messages. Kenyans spent close to 56.7 billion shillings on SMSs only in 2016, 2017. What is your take on that?
Well, the SMSs, we say, but now the service providers are reinventing. They are retooling.
Is it that the
actually.
calls are very expensive to call than text messages?
The calls are not slightly expensive because they just as we mentioned, they've come up with different platforms that are able to give consumers, diverse products and services at very friendly rates. But again, we think. There needs to be very fair and standard rates that should not be surpassed by these service providers. Because again, you see, even when Communications Authority set a benchmark on that at close to 4 shillings for call rates, still some service providers are still charging exactly that, as opposed to spreading their cost downwards. So we feel that it all bounces back to fair competition. There's still need to revisit this and reduce it further downwards.
Right, and still on the same, it has we see it's clearly very evident that online text messages and Safaricom actually accounts for 95.2% of the market share, meaning customers prefer their services compared to the other providers. Why is this? Is it just because Safaricom is, widespread? I mean, what brings about this?
I will bring 2 aspects. One, the issue, the aspect of dominance. They are taking the larger part of the market. So they already command the huge market share. So a number of followers are already in their system. And then again, Safaricom already has a better infrastructure, in terms of spread. They're already close to, I would say, close to 3/4 of the country. Everywhere you'll spot a Safaricom facility.
So this gives them an edge over the other providers.
Exactly. This has given them an edge, over the others. So again, it also turns around to do with issues of investment in the infrastructure, investment, and even the expertise. Yeah, so I think those are really have really contributed to their success in this sector.
All right, and lastly, but very not least actually, what do we need any legislative policies to ensure that the telecommunication sector improves even from where it is? But we've seen a huge improvement of the telecommunication sector in the country. But do we need more legislative policies, or what more reforms do we need? What can be added to what is already there?
Well, that's a very nice question. Now, let me say that we have already better policies. But now what we need to do with them is to, continuous improvement, because the sector keeps changing. We are moving from those analog eras. We had moved from analog era now to the digital era. And again, even in the digital era, the innovations keep changing. Actually, a lot of things keep changing as we move along in the market. What we like now, we had 4G now. I mean 3G. Yes. Now we are in 4G. Safaricom had just announced that they already plans to launch the 5G. So you see,
5G.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you see, we are already moving. Now what we need to do with our policies, their policies should be progressive in a manner that they are able to recognize the specific market realities. Now they should be practical in a manner that they don't just stagnate people, but now they encourage growth and continuous improvement in the sector.
Challenges?
I would say there are a lot of challenges. One is that first on the consumer side.
All right.
Service providers, particularly the telecom service providers, one, they should improve on the what we call the complaint channels. They should provide better complaint mechanisms, and those complaint platforms should be affordable to consumers. They should not hold consumers on calls forever, and even their airtime running out, they don't call back. Complaints, push to them taking too long before they give feedback. And again, on the aspect of drop calls, we still have a lot of drop calls incidences in the country. Poor network coverage, and issues to do with the costings. They should be able to, to provide better services that are more attractive. And then let's also focus on the aspect of the market dominance. This is one area that is really affecting the service providers. And for us, as a consumer downtown, actually we promote very fair competition in the market. And that's why we're partnering with Communications Authority of Kenya and Competition Authority of Kenya to ensure that the market players, not only the market players, but also the consumers get value at the end of it. And then one area that we also need to revisit is the Consumer Protection Act. Consumer Protection Act is giving consumer, is making consumer the king. There have been calls from all quarters that there's need to review the Consumer Protection Act 2012. And because Consumer Protection Act was, also created a body called KECOPAC, Kenya Consumer Protection Advisory Committee. That KECOPAC is still a bit of, is not really functional in a way. In fact, they have delayed a lot in taking up some issues, more issues that we expect them to do. So they should be able to come out very clearly and help realign the sector by making order on the things and even amending Consumer Protection Act also to recognize fair play for across board. Because you'll realize that a number of industry players, not only telecom, but there are also some very important sectors that are not even covered in the Act. But that Act, at least we have to appreciate that we are somewhere. We are better than those people who do not have anything.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but we need to improve it from where it is.
Definitely need to improve it. Thank you very much, Japheth Ogutu, Executive Director of Consumer Downtown Association. Thank you so much for making time for us. Just discussing matters of the telecommunication sector in the country. And at this point, we'd like to wrap up our Business Insight segment. Many thanks for keeping us company. My name is Zainab and Japheth. Have a good afternoon.